Out now on Blu-ray from MVD is Ghost Riders from 1987. Nothing to do with Ghost Rider. It's not about the guy on the motorcycle with the flaming skull head. This is Ghost Riders. This is about ghost cowboy outlaws. So film opens. Not going to tell you everything. Film opens with a flashback to the 1800s. Evil, despised, not decrepit, demented outlaw is about to be hung at the last minute. His fellow outlaws ride into town. There's a gunfight. He winds up hanging anyway. Then we flash forward to the future. Film is set in 1986, released in 87, and you see this local history professor who's trying to do research about that person and about the old days and all this. He disappears, some murders happen mysteriously, and his, I think, son and young friends, these are like 20, 30-something peoples, not in terms of number of people, but age, go out to look for him where he last was, the old site of where the hanging was or something like that. And they start seeing these visions of outlaws. Now let me roll back just a little bit. The outlaws in this film, at the beginning of the movie, there are some westerns that look like everybody's a little grubby, everybody's a little disheveled, everything looks lived in. And there are some westerns where it looks like people just bought the clothes, took them off the rack, put them on, and they said, action. This is the latter of that. So even when the movie opened, I'm like, whoa, everybody's clothes look really, really clean. So back to the story. The youth group is out in the woods trying to find the missing history professor, and they start seeing these outlaws in the woods, old Western looking people, looking menacing. And then those outlaw people start shooting at them. And basically what you have in this movie is a series of the titular Ghost Riders, the outlaws from the beginning of the film who were all killed or died long ago, and the man who was hung for being terrible, are just basically shooting at the living people. So I don't know how I get my head around the idea of ghosts with guns and then the guns like working. And then the living people are like shooting at the ghosts, and they will shoot the ghosts and the ghost will fall down dead, but then they'll pop up again later. So you really can't, I don't know, I couldn't get my head around the idea of there's a ghost, I'm going to shoot him. Or a ghost just shot me and I died. It's a little weird. But that's basically what this movie is. So it's the young people being stalked by ghost outlaws, Ghost Riders, and it turns into like a siege film where they hole up in an old house or barn or something like that, and it's a siege film. So I thought it was pretty bad myself. It just wasn't interesting, and the ghosts weren't really menacing. Like they didn't put any like white makeup on them. They didn't put any makeup on them. They just looked like regular people. They looked like people who were like part of and they might have been. I didn't listen to the commentary. It looked like people who were part of some old West reenactment group or show who were just terrorizing somebody. It might have been a more interesting and disturbing movie if that was the case. But it's just like these supposed ghosts. There's no special effects that I recall in the film to make them transparent. I mean, you take it as read that they're ghosts. So I just thought it was poorly done. The acting wasn't very good. The dialogue wasn't very good. It looks great. Like if you're a fan of this movie, if this is one you remember from the video store back in the 80s or 90s, it certainly didn't look like this when you saw it. It looks very good. The sound is very crisp. There's a commentary. There are vintage behind the scenes. There's a bunch of extras on this. So this is the kind of thing where I don't like a movie, but I will watch a little of the extras to find out why this exists or how it exists or how it came to be. So that was a little bit interesting. But overall, I just found it kind of tedious personally. This is one that is really more for if you're a big fan of the era. It's one of those things where I lived through the era, so I don't have a lot of nostalgia for 1986 or 87. I don't have a lot of nostalgia for how things looked back then. If you do, that might carry you through this movie. You might find the hairstyles and the clothes amusing. You might find the bad acting amusing. Maybe with a group who is primed for that kind of a viewing, this would be a successful experience. But for me, it was just kind of a drag. So I can't recommend Ghost Riders, but it might be the kind of thing that you might dig depending on your disposition. So out now on Blu-ray from MVD, Ghost Riders.